What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another PHDJ podcast with me, Joe Bunn, and author, DJ, mentor, creator, Mike Walter.
How are you, Joe?
Good morning. Is that how I say it? Author.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm not saying it very well. But anyway, here he is, ladies and gentlemen, fresh off the publishing and distribution of his brand new book, On This Day in Music.
Yep, that's it. On this date.
On this date. That's right. Correct. On this date in music.
Just in case anyone's trying to go to the website, it's on this date.
In case you're on Amazon right now.
Well, and you know what's funny? I titled the book based on what website I could get. So Today in Music would have been simpler, and I would have gone with that, but I couldn't get that website.
Yeah.
And On This Day in Music, I don't even know if I tried that. I think the second one I tried was On This Date in Music, and I was able to get that site, so that became the title of the book, which
that's awesome.
People, years ago, people used to talk about if you were starting a new company, what would you call it? And my advice was always call it whatever website you can get.
Yeah.
Make that the main. I mean, that shouldn't be the only decision making, but find a website, find a name, make sure those two go together.
I agree. Perfect little tidbit to start the day. Real quick before we get into, I want to talk a lot about the book today, Mike, if that's okay. But I wanted to talk about. I know both of us took some time out. I think I was off on Saturday, so I went Saturday. And I think you went last night. Let's talk about Bohemian Rhapsody, the Queen.
Yeah. I think the main topic is how did Joe get a Saturday night off in November? That should be.
I think what I did was I looked at the Carolina football schedule when it came out, and I had taken the night off to go to the game. And then when they're so bad that I decided college, yeah, on Saturday. So the Tar Heels.
What'd you think of Bohemian Rhapsody?
I liked it, man. I liked it a lot, to be honest with you.
Scale of 1 to 10.
7.5.
Yeah, I would have said the same thing. 7.5. I liked it. Didn't love it. Didn't think it was a perfect movie, but I really enjoyed it. Specifically, the scene where they're putting together Bohemian Rhapsody is great. Where they're playing where they're singing the harmonies.
Yes.
I thought that stuff was really good. I love those where you get to see a band building a song in the studio.
I love that part too.
And then obviously the Live Aid recreation was just amazing.
I mean, I saw Robbie Britton said the same thing. I literally walked out of the theater, walked in the house, everybody went to bed, and I was like, I'm gonna find that performance on YouTube of Live Aid and see how close it was.
Yeah, I'm gonna pat myself on the back here for a little bit. I love the fact that everyone is now revisiting that.
Yeah.
Go back a couple years. I used clips of Freddie Mercury at Live Aid and I told people, to me,
I remember this.
That is the quintessential live performance. If you want to see a front man literally own
hundreds of thousands
of people in the palm of your hand doing whatever that watch that performance.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and the whole Radio Gaga. I mean, those clips are just. I mean, if the hair isn't standing up and on the back of your neck, check your pulse, dude.
Yeah,
just check it.
It was. It's unbelievable. And that guy that plays on that show, Mr. Robot, Rami something, I think his name is.
Yeah, you were telling me about. I've never seen him. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else. I was really impressed by his performance. One of the things that kept throwing me off, I hope they don't do a Prince biopic, but if they do, he could play that too. Because there were times. If you look at Prince, he had a little bit of an overbite too, not nearly as much as Freddie Mercury. And obviously, I know they used prosthetics to get that overbite in the movie. But if they used about half that prosthetic, there were a couple times where the shot was on, so you really couldn't see the prosthetic. And I was like, oh my God, he looks more like Prince in this moment than he does.
I didn't notice that.
There were a couple times before he grew the mustache.
Yeah.
There were a few times where it was a little off-putting for me because I'm like, wait, what am I watching here? You know? But yeah, really highly recommend, especially if you love music history and
music too.
I would call myself a casual Queen fan. I'm not the biggest Queen fan in the world.
Same.
I did, even with my limited fandom and knowledge, though, I did catch one timeline error, which I can't believe they would do this. They have a party at Freddie Mercury's house.
Yeah.
And they say on the bottom it's in 1980, which is weird because most of the rest of the movie they didn't timestamp, but for some reason they timestamped that. And then I think it's the very next scene they're working on which song? We Will Rock You,
yeah,
which is from 78 or 77. I'm like, wait a minute, that made, right. And I didn't know the exact dates, but I'm like, that's off. And then someone else pointed out at that party, Super Freak comes on by Rick James, which was released in 81.
Right.
So, it just surprises me for something this is not a fictional recreation of a band. You're supposed to be retelling the history. But anyway, I didn't let those little things get in the way. I enjoyed the movie.
Me too. Thoroughly. It didn't stop me at all. I think I didn't know enough about the timeline. I mean, I know enough about music, but I don't know years very well of when songs came out, to the point where I was like, man, that wasn't out yet. When I go to a movie, even though
you're too much of a fan of something, it's going to be impossible.
Exactly.
I spoke to a woman the other night who she is to Queen what I am to Prince.
Oh, wow.
And she hated it because she said those timeline issues kept tripping her up. And yeah, that would be the problem. If I saw a Prince movie and they had a number of issues like that, it would drive me batty.
Yeah.
So maybe sometimes you're better off not being that level fan to enjoy something like that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I definitely, like I said, I want to talk about in this episode of the podcast, I definitely want to tell... I want you to tell me more about the book, because I'm still waiting anxiously for my copy. I saw it.
Damn it.
I held it.
I was hoping it would get there in time.
Yeah, no, I held it in my hand when I was in Jersey.
But, give it to you. It was proof.
Yeah, it was the proof. Yeah, that would have been a little. That would have been like a piece of history you were giving away, really.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I think I lost it I brought that with me at the book release party.
Yeah.
That's what I read from, and I have to go through the stuff that came home. I think I might have lost that. I got to go to the brewery to have it. So, yeah. Whatever.
Well, tell us, Mike, just tell us briefly about the book. I mean, most of us probably that listen to this have followed the journey, but tell us about the book. I mean,
so if you did follow the journey, these essays, I'll call them, started as Facebook posts, and I started in June of 2016, just posting every day something that happened in music on that date, whether it was an album that got released or a song that went to number one or something like that. I'll give you a good example. Today, Joni Mitchell was born, so today's post is on this day Joni Mitchell was born, and here's kind of her life recap. So it began that way, and then as it took shape, I was like, a few people said to me this could be a book, and I started thinking this could be a book. So I would say this: if you followed it on Facebook, you want to read the book, because those Facebook posts evolved into the essays. They grew from there. So don't think you've read everything just because you read the Facebook post back 2 years ago.
And Mike, was it so you're basically saying those Facebook posts you expanded? I mean, are most days 2 pages, say, in the book? Because I've seen this.
The average essay is 850 words, which is a short magazine article.
Sure,
it's pretty much what you and I submit for John Young for the Disc Jockey News, which is, so to me, if you do choose to read this book, as I hope some people do, 1 essay a day, keep the book on your mantle or on your toilet bowl or wherever you do your reading, and read 1 essay on that date. It's a 5 to 10 minute read. Some of the shorter ones you could probably clock out in 5 minutes, and some of the longer ones where I get a little wordy and pack a lot of stuff in might take you 10 minutes, but that's pretty much it. But then from there, I hate to give people homework assignments, but my hope is that from there you seek out the music.
Yeah.
If I talk about a specific album and you can find 40 minutes in that day, listen to the whole album.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's awesome.
we all used to sit down and listen to albums. Where has that lost art gone? If I talk about a video, go find the video on YouTube and watch it, because that, to me, is the way you can enhance the whole experience of this book.
Love it. So you wouldn't say it's just for DJs then, basically?
Yeah, not at all. I mean, I would say every DJ should love this book, because we should all be, music lovers and find a passion in that. But it's not written from a DJ's point of view for other DJs. I'm not telling you, like, this is a good song to use before dinner. And, it's not written in that regard. It's written for anyone who has a passion for music.
Yeah.
And also loves, if you remember the Behind the Music show on VH1, if you loved that show and liked learning little things about behind what inspired this songwriter to write this song, or how did this band get its name, or how did these two people meet and form a band. If you love learning about that type of stuff, then I think the book is for you.
Yeah, it's definitely for me, because I do. Now that you bring that show up, I loved it.
Dude, I just found out this morning. I'm listening to Howard Stern. Yeah. You know Perry Farrell?
Yeah, of course.
From Jane's Addiction.
Yeah,
that's not his birth name. Do you know how he came up with that?
It's Peripheral or something like that, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I was a big Jane's Addiction
Howard
fan.
Stern said that this morning, and I was like, I did not know that. I just put that on Facebook before we went live. So that's the type of mind-blowing thing that's, to me, like, wow, that's kind of cool that he came up with that for his name.
Cool. I don't even. Do you remember his name? Or
no. I looked it up on Wikipedia to confirm that Howard Stern was correct, and it was. But I don't. Yeah. But I also didn't know he was born in Queens. So we are fellow.
Oh wow, yeah. No, Queens. I was a huge Jane's Addiction fan back in the day. I went in they came to Carolina early, like pre-Lollapalooza, like right when they were starting to blow up. And man, the first song came on, and it was in this like theater, and so the row, it was like a movie theater where the seats were bolted down, but they had opened up a little pit in the front.
Right.
And I ran down there, and they went in that first song, and it goes, dun, 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 here we go. Dude, I went in the mosh pit, and
you just lost it.
Lost my shoes, everything. I came out, I was like, bro, I lost my shoes. I went back the next day and got my shoes.
You were lucky you found it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But listen, if you have a good enough time, sacrificing a pair of shoes is not the end of the world.
But I did. Yeah. Knowing me, though, I was like, I'm going back for my damn shoes. So doing research, which obviously probably took as much time as writing and recording the audio version, was anything shocking? Did anything pop up where you were like, holy, like really, not Perry Farrell's Peripheral, but like mind blown kind of
You know what was mind blowing to me was how often record executives have gotten it wrong through the years. You would think these guys are professionals and they know their business, and so they always make or not, maybe not always, but a vast majority of the time make the right call.
Right.
But there's so many examples in this book of songs that were relegated to B-sides that eventually became hits and were much better than what was originally the A-side.
Yeah.
There are stories of bands that couldn't get signs. I mean, to me, the favorite one is Meatloaf and Jim Steinman shopping Bat Out of Hell, and the concept of Bat Out of Hell to numerous record executives, to the point where Clive Davis, who is a genius, nobody denies that, threw them out of his office. He said, these are not rock songs. Have you ever heard rock and roll songs? Go buy some albums and listen. He insulted them and threw them out of the office.
Jeez.
And that album goes on to be one of the top 5 selling albums of all time, 40 million units sold. So, I don't know if that's shocking or not, but it was just a consistent theme throughout the book that how many times record executives just missed the mark.
Blew it. Yeah. Like, didn't you and I both, and it got canceled, watch that show that was on Showtime or HBO that was about the music business? Were you watching that?
Oh, what was that called? Was that called Vinyl?
Yeah, that sounds right.
With was it Chaz Palminteri? No.
Yeah, no, it was a guy that's kind of like
guy with a cool name.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed that Mick Jagger was involved in that. He was executive producer.
That was a great show.
I was disappointed that didn't get picked back up because they were already setting up for the next season, which was going to be punk music. You could tell they had dropped a couple of hints about, there's this new sound coming, and so I thought the next season they were really going to dive deep into maybe we were going to meet the Ramones, because if you remember, they didn't just talk about like John Lennon. You met a guy playing John Lennon. You met a guy playing Bowie. You met a guy playing Bob Marley. So I really enjoyed it.
Was Vinyl.
It was called Vinyl. What's the actor's name?
And it was Scorsese was involved. Remember, he was the executive.
I was HBO. I was shocked that didn't get picked up for a second season.
Oh man, I'm looking for the dude's name. Anyway, Bobby Cannavale.
That's it. Yeah. That's not as cool as Chaz. Chaz Palminteri is
and Olivia Wilde. Oh my God, she's fire.
It was great. God. I know.
Anyway,
she was naked at one point in that, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't even want to tell y'all to go back and watch it because it basically leaves you like dead.
HBO, you could probably. I think the first season was satisfying enough. You will be disappointed that it didn't get picked back up.
Yeah.
But I think it's still worth going back and watching that first season.
Vinyl. Yeah, that was cool. All right, so most surprising origin of a song.
Oh, God, there's so many, Joe. That is so hard. I'll give you one of my favorites, but it is hard because, and again, this book is chock full of those, just origins of songs that blow you away. The Deep Purple song, "Smoke on the Water."
Yeah.
Quick recap: 1971. Exactly. First of all, one of the most recognizable opening hooks.
Sure.
Bum, 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 bum. They go to Montreux, Switzerland, to record an album. They're supposed to take over the famous casino in Montreux. I think it was shutting down for renovation, so they were going to record their album. The night before that, there's a Frank Zappa concert at the casino. Some idiot shoots off a flare gun, starts a fire, basically burns the place to the ground. Deep Purple is in their hotel room across the street. They watch the fire and realize, okay, now we have to go find a new place to record everything else. They if you read the lyrics of "Smoke on the Water," it's a retelling of that entire incident. Retelling of they mention some stupid kid with a flare gun. They mentioned this guy named Funky Claude, who was a music producer who helped get kids out of the fire. And of course, "Smoke on the Water, Fire in the Sky." That's about the fire itself. Damn. And that to me is one of those, like, and from what I've read and wrote, Ritchie Blackmore had the riff already, so that riff would have been used in something. But just the fact that it became this iconic "Smoke on the Water" song because of that incident, that kind of thing blows me away.
Damn, that's a good one for sure. I can't wait to get this. What do you think? I guess what date do you think is the most important in music history so far?
God, you're asking me for one date is hard. Because,
yeah, give me your favorite out of.
You know what that's what I was going to answer. What I hate about that question is the most significant dates are often the tragedies because we know them. February 3rd, 1959. Buddy Holly's playing, Richie Valens and the Big Bopper. December 8th, 80, John Lennon gets shot. We know these dates because something tragic happened. October 20th, 77, Leonard Skinner's plane goes down.
Yeah, I knew that one.
The things that I love and that I write about often in the book, but a lot of them we don't know the date, is the beginning of the process instead of the end. There's the legendary story of Mick Jagger and Keith Richards meeting on a train. And Keith Richards noticed Mick Jagger has some American blues albums. And I think if I remember, they had gone to school as kids, so they kind of knew each other, but they weren't friends. And Richard sees the albums and says, "Hey, I want to meet this guy because I want to basically listen to these albums because they were hard to get in London." And that's the beginning of a friendship that goes on to form the Rolling Stones, which is probably, arguably the greatest rock and roll band of all time, especially if you factor in longevity. Yeah. So we don't know that date. We don't know the day that Mick Jagger and Keith Richards met on the train. So the date is lost to history, but the incident, Madonna gets off a plane in New York as a teenager with $35 into her name, wanting to make it in music. We don't know the date that she got off the plane, but what a significant date that is. You know what I mean? Sean Carter, growing up in Brooklyn in the Marcy Projects, used to bang on pots and pans, and his mother wanted to encourage his love of music, so she buys him a boombox. His friends start calling him Jazzy, which gets condensed into Jay-Z. Thus is the beginning of one of the great rap careers. But we don't know that. We don't know the date that his mother gave him. So I'd have to say significance. It's the tragic dates, but to me, the ones that begin the process are the most fascinating.
Damn. So Monday, just a couple of days ago, up in were you in Jersey or New York, Mike, for the book?
It was right in Red Bank, New Jersey. Okay. Yeah.
So I know you read. I know I didn't see any video footage, but I saw a lot of pictures from the night. I know you read some. Do you have like a favorite passage or excerpt, or whether you wrote it or you pulled it from a lyric, or do you have a favorite part?
Yeah, I would say it's hard for me to say the John Lennon shooting is my favorite because it's so tragic. But in terms of being a writer and being proud, you write articles, and I know, as a writer, sometimes you kick stuff out and you go, here it is. But then sometimes you sit back and you go, damn, that's some good writing.
Right.
I think the John Lennon essay, December 8th, that's the one I'm most proud of as far as writing goes.
Yeah.
But I can't call that my favorite because to me that's such a tragic incident. The fact that John, I mean, I feel personally as a music fan cheated over the last what did he die? 80, so that's 38 years ago.
Yeah.
How would John Lennon have commented on the Reagan years, 9/11, our current president? Like, what would John Lennon's take on all that have been? And it's kind of fascinating, but it's also shameful that we don't have that because some idiot shoots him. So it's hard for me to say that's my favorite. If you're going to ask me favorite, I'd probably say Clapton writing Wonderful Tonight. And I know I've told everybody the backstory of that before. You know, he's waiting to go out for a party. Patty Boyd is taking forever. And so he sits down and starts strumming along and saying it's late in the evening. She wonders what clothes to wear, puts on her makeup, brushes her long blonde hair. So instead of killing time watching TV, or nowadays, you know, we sit on Facebook. Yeah. Play a video game. Instead of doing something meaningless like that, she's late getting ready for a party. He writes arguably one of the great love songs of all time. I love that story for two reasons. It's fascinating and it's an iconic love song, but that's also one of the background stories that started my passion towards this. So I first read that in, I don't know what book, 25 years ago, and I started becoming really, really interested in, oh yeah, these songs don't just come out of a vacuum. They're created by some incident that happens in a songwriter's life that gets the ball rolling. So I'd have to say that's probably my favorite, just because it started the whole journey for me.
And Mike, really, I mean, you cover every type of genre, every decade, really, from the 50s on, right?
Yeah, if you look at
just since we've been talking, you've mentioned Jay-Z, you've mentioned Skinner,
and classic rock. Yeah, if you look through the index in the back of the book, I think there's not a music genre I don't cover. Now, I didn't cover country probably as much as I covered classic rock.
Sure.
But yeah, I tried to be very cognizant of that and touch on a little bit. Definitely starting in the 50s. I've even got I did In the Mood by Glenn Miller, because I think that's just a classic big band song, and it allowed me to tie it into the zeitgeist of the World War II era. By the way, zeitgeist I probably use way too often in the book, but
it's a great word.
But yeah, I mean, it is. And it also, going back to the fact that music is not created in a vacuum, I think understanding the zeitgeist of an era helps you understand the music that came out of it. So that it is important sometimes to paint that picture, the late 60s with all the protests going on. If you understand that, you understand some of the songs that came out of it. So that is important. But yeah, I did my best to be as diverse in this. It's not just classic rock or I mean, I love disco. I probably over glorify the disco bands, but I didn't do 365 days on disco.
Right. Mike, did you speaking of those songs, do you guys still do In the Mood and like that Jive Bunny stuff? Because when we first met, that was big.
I never liked the Jive Bunny because to me, if somebody loves In the Mood, they don't want to hear 25 seconds of it. If somebody loves Rock Around the Clock, I don't play the big band stuff that often anymore.
But remember though, when we met 10, 15 years ago, like.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. When I started DJing 30 years ago, events, the World War II generation was in their 60s, early 60s.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And they were the young grandparents at your parties. And so you could play In the Mood and they would pack the dance floor. Sure. And then maybe later in the night, you do, Pennsylvania 6-5000 or something like that. Or Sing, Sing, Sing by Benny Goodman.
They were all on that platinum series.
They were all, but the problem, and it's sad, but I mean, it's just the march of time. That World War II generation now is in their 90s. So they've either left us or they're not exactly cutting the rug to something as upbeat as In the Mood. You're better, if you have that generation at your party, you're probably better off playing Moonlight Serenade nowadays, which is a beautiful big band slow song that they can dance to, rather than basically trying to dance them into a heart attack.
Right. We've talked about some tragedies here. I mean, just like you said, it's sad that you remember those dates. I'm not very good with dates or years, but I distinctly, and it's rare. It's a rare memory that I have of seeing my parents cry. But I remember both times. I remember when Elvis died, and I remember when Marvin Gaye died, and it shook them, like as if we had lost. I thought my aunt had died or something.
Yeah, it's so funny. Neither of my parents are that big music lovers, which is weird because I don't know where I get it from. But Kelly's mom is my wife's mother is a huge Elvis fan, and she talks about. She's told me the story. Like she heard the news driving, and she pulled over to the side of the road. And I mean, I have to relate to 2 years ago. I came home for lunch and started looking through social media and heard the news that Prince died. And I hadn't spoken to anybody yet. I looking through Twitter and I confirmed it. And I called Kelly at the office. She was still at the vitamin shop. And she said, "You don't sound too good." And I said, "No, I just read the news, Prince." And I literally couldn't get the words out of my mouth. I started crying. Yeah. And I think if you love an artist enough, their death, especially if it's untimely like that, it's going to move you to tears. It becomes too sad. Yeah.
So is there a day that the music really died, like as in American Pie and the?
Yeah, I mean American Pie. That February 3rd, 1959. That date has taken on that term. But I mean, obviously, music didn't die that day. But put it in perspective. 3 major music artists died that day. I mean, imagine in the 1970s if Eric Clapton, Bob Seger, and Bruce Springsteen had all died in the same plane crash. You want to say
changed the face of rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, more recently, like if Eminem, Lil Wayne, and Rihanna are in the same plane and it goes down, it's not, anytime we lose an artist, it's tragic. You multiply that by 3 artists dying the same morning. Basically the country woke up to that news. That's pretty major. So did it die that day? No, obviously. Right. Music, 50 years later, music is still pushing on. But it's no doubt a very tragic day. And I write about it twice in the book, by the way. I do it the whole day, February 3rd. Yeah. But I also do it when I talk about the song American Pie, because that song isn't just about the Buddy Holly plane crash, but it started with that. And Don McLean, when he writes in that song, he talks about bad news on the doorstep. And Don McLean has said he was delivering newspapers as a kid, and that's how he heard the news. He was delivering papers that morning and saw, oh my God, and he was a big rock and roll fan. So for him as a kid, these are 3 of his idols, heroes, if you will, that have died. And so that was the beginning of that process for him. One of the things I write about that with that song, though, Don McLean has been very reluctant to explain, because if you look at the lyrics, it's very poetic and there's a lot of imagery and a lot of stuff that is not really explainable. So he's often asked, what does it mean? What does American Pie mean? And a lot of times he'll just be a little coy about it, and he'll say, you know what it means? It means I never have to work another day for the rest of my life. It's a great line. It's a great line.
That is true, dude.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess to kind of wrap this episode up, I mean, through all the writing, research, everything else, why do we love music so much? Not we as in me and you, but like the world. Like, why does it?
You mean going back to the broader audience of this book, music lovers, not just DJs? Well, whether you're a DJ or not, I think you have to appreciate the fact that music is a time machine. Music can literally transport you back to the time of your life when you were first hearing a song. And it's one of the reasons why legacy bands still tour. I mean, comics can't, Jerry Seinfeld still goes out and does stand-up, but he needs to rewrite new jokes every time he does. But the Rolling Stones, when they go on tour, nobody wants to hear their new stuff. The people want to hear Satisfaction and Honky Tonk Woman because it brings you back to the time in your life when you first heard these songs and where you were when you heard them. So I think that's the number one reason. And then I think the second reason, and we just talked about it with the Live Aid clips from Bohemian Rhapsody, is music it's a communal experience. It's something that you enjoy with everyone else. If you've ever been to a concert and sang along with 20,000 people in an arena, that's a mind-blowing experience. That's something you can't get. We went to the movies to see this. Imagine if you were talking along with the actors. People would tell you to shut the hell. I mean, you're not even supposed to turn your phone on in a movie theater, which is correct. You watch a play, sit down, be respectful, listen. But when you go to a concert, you're almost expected to get involved. I've heard band members and lead singers say the crowd is better when they're on their feet dancing and singing along. So music is a communal experience. It's not something you take in like this. It's something you get involved in. Yeah. So I think those are the two main reasons that we all love music.
Man, I can't wait, Mike. I'm anxiously. I keep looking at the door, hoping the mailman or the UPS.
It'll be there today. I'm sorry I didn't get there.
That's
sooner,
all right, man. Well,
hold up your copy,
so Mike,
you'll get it.
Tell them where they can get it and so on and so forth.
So yeah, I mean, you can buy the book off of any of the major websites, Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. You can find the book right there. If you want an autographed copy, you can go to my specific website that I've set up on this date in music.com, and you can order the book off of there, and I will personalize it for you. And,
it's personal. It's not just a signature.
I will personalize it with your name, and it's one of the reasons why if your PayPal account is like Elite Entertainment at gmail.com, please let me know what your first name is, so I can actually personalize it for you, because I want to do that.
I love it, guys. I love it. Well, Mike, looking forward to getting it. Thank you guys again for listening. As always, check out the website, PHDJworkshop.com. We've gotten a few more signups recently, and we are hoping to add a lot more of you to our big workshop in Las Vegas. And that's it, Mike. Anything else?
Perfect. No, that's it. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. Later.
Ciao.